within the past 3.5 years when this issue first came up. It should not have waited until this moment to get it resolved. I went to the courthouse last Thursday. I was talking to one of the residents that's involved in this. I was given some good information. So I took that information. I went to the courthouse with it on Friday. And basically what I found out was that the appraiser's office was able to give me a map of the area. And it clearly shows on that map. I left it in the car, by the way. I can go get it if I need to, but I don't think it's going to be necessary. But it clearly shows that the right-of-way is 100 feet on either side of the center line of the roadway, which puts it, and if I may use your house for an example, Paula, that 100 feet puts it right at her porch, right at it. So to resolve that, what do we got to do? We got to find out who owns the right of way. So the appraiser's office can't tell me that. The only people that can tell me that's a register of deeds office. So I go to the register of deeds office. I talked to a man whose last name is Wagner, and he pulled the books out, and we talked. He was telling me all the different things that's going on in the city of Eskridge and what was recorded and what wasn't recorded. And he started in the late 1800s looking for information. He gets to 1938, and there's nothing at 1938 at all in there listed. The next entry after 1938 was 1964. From 64 up to the present day, and there's no entries in that regard. So I stopped him and I said, what happened between 1938 and 1964? He said, well, there's no entries, nothing took place. So I said, well, my understanding was that in the mid to late 1950s, that the state may have vacated this property to the city of Eskridge, and that's what we need to find out. Did they or did they not vacate it? And he says, I have no record of it. So this was last. So to my knowledge, at that point, it was still owned by the state. Saturday, again, if I may use you, I talked to Paula again Saturday and told her what I found out. And Paula had also found out some more information between the time I talked to her Thursday and the time I talked to her Friday. And she gave me the names of a couple of people. One of them here locally that's in charge of KDOT for this particular area where we live right now. And the other one was the district. I don't want to call him a manager because I don't know that's his official title, but he's in charge of the district that includes Eskridge as part of his responsibility. So I called and talked to them today. They sent me an email. This guy's name was Matt. For the life of me, I cannot pronounce his name. I can spell it. Maybe somebody can tell me how it's pronounced, but it's Mackaprang.
Yeah.
Mackaprang. That to me sounds like. Anyway, Matt, which I'll refer to him as, he sent me an email with some information that he's had on file since 1956. I was really quite surprised that they were able to pull this information up as quickly as they did, but they did. And the city council all member of that, and reading through it, it doesn't sound to me like the state ever owned any property or had the rights to any property within the city of Eskridge. It just, they basically have the understanding that the state right-of-way started on the old K4 that ran from Council Grove to Eskridge. When it got to the south side of Eskridge city limits, that's where the state's responsibility ended as far as the right-of-way goes. The plat maps are showing 100 feet because that is what the city had back in that time as the right-of-way. But that was 1918, and this is 2022. And 100 years ago, the roads were dirt, sand, gravel, whatever they could find to put down that people could traverse across. Probably had no earthly idea in 1918 that 100 years from now, we're going to have concrete and vehicles the way they operate today. So bad planning on their part 100 years ago? Probably not. It's probably logical that would happen back then, just like we think things are happening logically today.
They could have thought it could have developed commercially. I mean, it's still
Yeah.
Main Street, so
Yeah. Yes, you're exactly right. That could very well have been. So anyway, the only thing that the state has a responsibility to the city of Eskridge is they are responsible for K4 and K99 that runs through the downtown area of Eskridge. They are responsible for curbs. I'm sorry. They are responsible for handicap ramps on the intersections and the general maintenance of the highway signs that are on that section of state highways. They're also responsible for removing snow off K99 and K4 highways, but only in the center of the roads. And I say that because they'll clear the center of the road or clear the center of the roads, but it's up to the city to clear the parking areas. Now, how does that affect everybody in here tonight on this issue? Probably not, but I want to put it out there because it's all part of the packet that I received from Matt. And I want to make sure that in the future right here, I'll be looking into it. I want to find out what we have in the city of Eskridge for an ordinance that pertains to parking in downtown area during a quote snow emergency. Because if we've got snow and the state has cars parked along the side, they're probably not going to push snow anywhere. But if we don't have parking during that emergency, quote unquote, then they can push the snow where they got to do it. And our guys can come in right behind them and get it off the parking area so that we can open it back up. So that's the reason why I'm bringing that particular thing up. So what I'd like to do at this time is point out the fact that even though it appears right now that the state has no what we're discussing tonight, there's also no record or proof of who the ownership of any of this property is. And I think that I find it kind of crazy. So I do have another source that I'm going to go to probably Wednesday. I can't do it tomorrow because I've got VA appointments. That's neither here nor there with you guys, but I don't have the time tomorrow to go do that. But what I want to do is I want to go find out from the Register of Deeds office, as far back as I got to go, who actually owns the streets that we're talking about. I have to think the city does, but I would also have to think it should be recorded in the Register of Deeds office. However, with that in mind, we've been in touch with our attorney who's unable to be here tonight because he has other commitments. And he believes, if I'm reading his comments correctly, and Justin, I know you got a copy. I don't know if any of the other members did or not.
Yeah, sorry. I'm happy to forward it or, to anybody or let me read it or whatever.
Y'all got copies. Okay. If I understood him right, we can do whatever we want. We can move the sidewalk wherever we want. We don't have to leave it where it sits. And he had only one concern and that was to make sure that the state can't come back and do something. And the chance of that was very, very slim. I have to believe that the state does not have any right of way because their right of way ended at the city limits on the south side of Eskridge. Okay, well, if that's the case, then what that means is we can't do anything south of town on them roads without getting the state involved. But anything that's within the city limits, it's ours. That's the way I'm reading that. Are you guys reading that any differently?
That's the way I read it, but my concern was where was the south city limit back then? Was it where it is today?
Yes, it is. It's where it is today because the Register of Deeds office showed me where the city limits ended for Eskridge. And at the time, remember I was talking to him Friday. I wasn't aware of what Matt sent me today at that time. So when he said that the city limits ends down here at the end of 6th Street, I said, well, I'm not even concerned about that. We're more concerned with the 300 and 400 block of Main Street.
My second concern is if it is the state's, is there anything in their laws that say the sidewalk must be at the very outer limit of their property? I mean,
Of the state?
Yeah.
I don't know because the state's not really involved in what we're doing.
So, okay.
According to Todd, we can put it anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we want to put it in the street, but I'm thinking that we can move it out. Now, the unfortunate thing for the park people is that they've got a sidewalk in there already. And I've already heard some complaints that if they had known about this ahead of time, they could have moved that sidewalk closer to Main Street, thereby giving them more park for people. And I don't know if anybody's been down there to take a look at that or not, but I personally, I'm extremely pleased with the sidewalks that are down there now.
I like them.
I don't think the spacing's that big a deal.
Yeah, I mean,
And
We-
the one on,
partly we have trees in the way
on
as
the one
well.
on that one side is, it really is on the street.
Yeah,
It's right,
it's
really right
it's
next
still
to
me
the-
Main Street that has
Yeah,
the 100
yeah.
foot back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the other ones don't matter.
Oh, I think it looks nice.
And I think it looks nice too. And even if we had the right to move it out, it probably would have been moved out. And if we knew we had the right to move it out, we probably would have moved it out, and it still looked just as nice. The thing I like about it now is a vendor can come in, they can set up in the street, and they've got a little leg room right there to get set up without interference from anybody that might be.
There's still
In here.
room for people to walk along the sidewalk
And not,
and the vendors
yes.
still have their business.
yes, yes. So at this point, that, as far as I'm concerned, it's ours, it's the city's. We can put that sidewalk where it's convenient. So at this time, I'm going to ask the council for comments, suggestions, thoughts, and then I'm those here that's in the public with us tonight for any comments that they may want to share with us.
Okay, my opinion is that we build the sidewalk a couple of feet from the street.
Okay.
That way, because I know that if it was your house, you would not want people walking right by your porch looking in your windows. And let's face it, it will depreciate the value of her property tremendously. It's going to be, if she decided to sell that house and there's a sidewalk right there, it's going to be hard. People aren't going to want to buy a house where people can look in their windows.
And in today's environment, I agree with you 100%.
Yes.
100 years
yes.
ago, when there was a sidewalk out there, that wasn't an issue. People weren't idiots like they are today.
That's
You know,
right.
so I mean, seriously, whatever way to describe them, I don't know.
And with all the break-ins,
Yeah.
all they have to do is look in and say, oh yeah, she's got
She's
that.
got big screen TV.
She's
I'd
got
like
that. Yeah, we'll come back.
And I notice she's never home between the hours of 8 a.m. and 9:30 p.m. And so, yeah, it can be a safety issue for
It
anybody
is.
who's and not only Paula's house, but the one next south of her.
Yeah,
And it's a
Yeah.
little further back to
Yes.
their porch, but it's still pretty
it's
close.
still close enough. Yeah.
It's closer to the house than it is the road.
Now, I haven't, I came down here this morning at 8 o'clock expecting the concrete people to be here, and they were not here. And then I find out later that they're not even coming till late this afternoon. I didn't even go by the park on my way tonight, so I don't know if they brought any equipment down tonight like they said they were going to, because they're planning on starting tomorrow on the south side of the park. Okay. So as a council, if you guys vote to move the sidewalk out, then we've got time to tell them we're gonna delay the 300 block of Main Street until they can provide us with another bid to do the work, because there is going to be some slight changes to that. I did talk to Payday today, and his house along with Quayla
Mhm.
are affected, but they are not at all concerned. They said we can put the sidewalk wherever they want. We don't care. And I said, if it goes out to the street, we'll probably we'll probably cross the street from the park to where the current sidewalk is, or was, however you want to call that, and then make a left turn, a 90-degree turn to go to the corner, and another 90-degree turn to go back north until it gets up to Payday's, and we might have to do the same thing on the other end. With that in mind,
To match the handicap ramp, is that what you're saying?
well, there has to be a handicap ramp there.
To match the existing handicap ramp is what I'm asking.
There is no existing handicap
There is
ramp.
one on the
It's a curb.
On
It's
the-
not
on-
level to go down.
on the way on the what
On
on
the
the
park-
99 side, isn't there a ramp by the post? Am I making that up?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure what you're talking about here. Are you talking about it by the park or the other by the
No,
main,
the
by the
night-
highway?
The highway side.
No, there is no handicap ramp there.
Okay.
And I don't understand that, because the state came in
And
a
that's
few years
not
ago.
bid either.
What?
There's no handicap ramp for that spot is in the bid either.
Right, not from what you got, no, but I don't understand why the state, when they came in a few years ago, didn't put a handicap ramp there, because that's their responsibility on state highways.
Hmm.
So at the intersection there, they were supposed to install the handicap ramp, and I will talk to Matt about that this week. See what we can't do about that, or find out the reason why they didn't do it.
Okay.
But he's very explicit. There is supposed to be a handicap ramp there. But I'm saying, I'm just saying the concrete bid, it might cost us more money because we've got to angle that thing around like a very small horseshoe shape to get around from where it's going back towards Main Street and then back north to Third, and then maybe back over into the concrete driveway of Payday's. What was his business? Okay. So be prepared for that might be an added expense. I'm hoping that it's not going to be too bad. And I'm also hoping it's not going to delay the construction of that. That's our tax dollars, or y'all's tax dollars at work that's putting them sidewalks in. And that's not the only place. There's going to be sidewalks in other parts of town as well in the future. So
Well, also, we were planning on putting in sidewalks in front of the senior center, correct? Or the
Curvy,
Curvy.
curves and gutter.
they need that desperately because, you know, we have elderly people that go there frequently for lunch and whatnot. And I have been told by several people that frequent that senior center that if they fall and get injured, they're going to sue the city.
well,
So,
that's-
well, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
it's very important we get that done right away. So if we're waiting for plans or something, could they work on that after they finish the park before we do that other part of the sidewalk?
I don't see any reason why they couldn't.
Okay.
And is that part of their bid now to be working on that up there that she's talking about?
When I talked to him today, I talked to him last night and I told him absolutely do not start on the
300 block.
300 block, start on the south side of Main Street. And then I talked to him this morning, which I had mentioned to you guys before that he was going to have to get the bid back to us because of the price of inflation for
Right.
concrete and stuff. And he was going to try to stay within the original bid of the 31,000 that we had approved and potentially have to cut some stuff to stay in that. He thinks that he's going to whip that south side out and the curbs and gutters pretty quick. And then the only thing left that we have is this. So if we wait very long on this, then this sidewalk will have to wait till next year. It'll have to be postponed
Is
because
that
he's got
because
to move on to other things.
that's because of his construction schedule?
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Okay. All right. Now, as for me, I don't have a problem with moving the sidewalk out to the street. Annie, you got any comments?
I don't. Obviously, I don't want it to be in the way of any signs or anything, but that's probably pretty obvious. So
You don't want it to be in the way of what? Of
the
anyone?
signs on the street signs.
Oh,
That's it.
yeah. No, it'd be far enough back where the
Right.
street signs
That's-
should be fine just the way they are.
That's my only.
Brett?
Alrighty
Do we have any utilities that run?
None. I've already checked with Mike. There's no utilities to be concerned with. No
Then
gas, no
I think
electric,
it's fine.
no
to move
sewer.
it. I'm really disappointed that somebody had this knowledge all this time, and now it's like crunch hour, and this is what we're dealing with. It's just very disappointing.
And I feel for what you're saying, but
And I feel for the Meeks because they've come in here so many times and got nothing, and now,
They even tore down their fence, so.
yeah, today.
no, they took it down yesterday
That's right.
because I stopped and talked to him about it.
Down is down.
But it would have had to come down anyway on Main Street because it would have been interfering with the construction of the sidewalk at that point.
I'm still really disappointed.
I'm disappointed that the council for 3.5 years didn't investigate this further. That's what I'm disappointed about, which is going to be a lesson for all of us in the future.
But I
We're-
think we did because I went up to the courthouse to the appraisers and I had that map printed off and we brought it to Todd, and Todd, we thought we did everything they did. And then all of a sudden the state's now popping up and saying, oh, we had no rights. I mean, this whole entire time, the county and our lawyer guided us in the way that we thought we were supposed to be going and what was the way that it actually was. And the whole time the state's been setting on this,
And
and it's disappointing.
with that thought in mind, I'll retract the
Because her
responsibility of
feelings
the
have happened
council
because of
and
this.
place it on
And it's
our attorney.
unnecessary.
Because he's not here.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
he's not here for us to slam him, we can slam him all we want. No,
There-
I don't want to slam anybody. I just want to say that there should have been some investigation that's gone on prior to me going up there in less than an hour, finding out that we don't have anything registered with the Register of Deeds as to who owns what. Less than an hour, I found that out. So 3.5 years is plenty of time for other information that could have been
No,
developed.
no. That started in the previous administration before I got on.
It
Okay,
did.
It
It was
so-
was
Leanne.
Deanna Williams.
And I apologize if you felt slighted because all I knew
Well,
is
but
at
all
least
I-
3.5 years,
And
three
what
and a
I'm
half years at
telling you
least.
is I knew what the state guy knew. I don't know why you guys didn't know it.
Why didn't, did
Because,
you?
but then I'm neighbors to a guy that works for the state, Jeff Romine. And Jeff had told me that usually whenever things like that, that the state just lets the city do what they need to do with the easement, put sidewalks and stuff like that in. So I talked to Debbie, and Debbie had already been talked to by somebody from the state a while back.
Who's Debbie?
Debbie Meek.
Okay. Well, the
And
thing
so
is, the thing is, darling, I interrupt you. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
I'm sorry.
But the thing is, if it was vacated by the state, there should have been a notation in the Register of Deeds office, and there's not.
Yeah.
And that is a problem. And you're more than happy to look at this. It's dated February 9th, 1956. So
When I
we're
did all
talking
this
over
started-
60 years that the city has had no idea whether they owned it or if the state owned it. The state didn't go to the Register of Deeds office and officially sign it over, so to speak, or dissolve it. But they didn't have any need to register it in the city for the city of Eskridge because their responsibility ended when it reached the south side of Eskridge city limits. So it's basically, we'll say 7th and Main, where what's the creek name that runs back there? Come on, everybody knows what it is.
Dragoon.
Dragoon Creek, yeah. Where Dragoon Creek begins, where their responsibility ended. So they would not, in the 1950s, have gone to the registrar's office and transferred anything over.
You know, that's when the country in 1955 started building highways and stuff, I-70, I-60
Yes,
and all that.
Yes.
That's how old I am.
Well,
I can remember that.
I read a sign on the highway. That's how I knew that. But does everybody understand what I'm trying to say here? That there's no written record that says this is ours. And there's no written record that says it was ours because it never was anybody else's but ours. That's what I'm finding out. That's my understanding of what is to what we have right here. Okay. So if it happened before Dolly's time, that means we're talking 5 years ago, at minimum 5 years ago when this process got started. Minimum. And like I said, I don't know. That's why I say at least. But for the future, I can assure everybody that's here, to include the council, that before we proceed with what we're going to make sure of right of ways. We're going to make sure of who owns what, where the property lines start, where it ends. And it's a lengthy process, but we might as well do it now. And it will prevent incidents like we're going through right now. That's my hope for the future when we develop various things in town. So with that in mind, Justin, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I mean, I guess a bad way to get to this point here, but hopefully we can find some silver lining out of the deal. But I am in favor of a sidewalk in this place. I think it makes sense to tie the park in with the Main Street corridor. I measured my sidewalk. Right now it's we have frontage of a current state highway, Highway 99. Going over there, and it's about 30 to 32 inches, about 2'8" of green space between the road and sidewalk. I mean, I would think something like that would be appropriate, but I mean, that's even a current highway. So
The other thing we got to keep in mind, due to ADA regulations, that sidewalk is going to have to be 4 foot wide. So when we go out there and measure this in that 300 block, we've got to keep that in mind that it's going to be 4 foot wide. So where is it going to start in relation to the curb, and where would the 4 foot end up?
yeah, I would think minimal would be nice, but I realize that you can't just, shave it off and do do the curb and then start the sidewalk. But, probably should be a little bit of green space in there. But, there's a power pole here. I'm looking at it on street maps right now, but there would be a stop ahead sign that might interfere if we did the 2'8". Might just be a matter of asking the KDOT if it can be moved, or maybe it's our jurisdiction since it's in the city. I don't know. Maybe Mike or somebody can move it, but I don't know.
I think the sign would be a secondary concern.
Yep.
Oh,
Sure, yeah, but I don't know. That's just what I would think on all this, I guess.
Yeah.
Um,
Tim,
He pretty much said what my concerns were. That's why I just drew this little sketch here. Because my question was, what's the distance between here going to be? If this is 4 foot, then,
and that's the grassy area before the street?
well, this would be the grassy area. This
Before
would
the
be the
street, yeah,
street.
okay.
And here's the under streets. This would be your sidewalk, the stripe. So this is what the question is right here.
Is how much space do we actually have?
Open the door.
Available.
Make sure there's that much space.
I mean, if
so
I agree with Justin, I would like to see some green right here.
Mhm.
I think it'd be pointless to have a foot wide, because I think it'll just turn into a mud strip.
It'd be too close.
Maybe 4 and 4. I don't know. What,
yeah,
maybe we should ask Paula what she would like.
We're gonna get to them here in just a second.
Okay.
We're gonna give her first crack at this, so to speak. So, the general consensus that I'm picking up is you guys are in favor of moving it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Okay, and we'll hold off on a vote here on that for just a moment. So I'm gonna open this up for the folks in the gallery, the peanut gallery, as they used to say, for comments.
Just as a matter of curiosity, how much space on the park side of Main Street is there between the sidewalk and the street?
it's gonna go measure that before I go out here.
Yeah, I don't know, but I would say 10 to 12 foot.
Sorry.
Between the curb and the sidewalk we have on the front of the park,
I don't know,
it's
but
10 feet, isn't it?
I don't know for sure.
Is that all? I feel like it's more.
That's believable.
It might be 15
Between the
feet.
front edge or the back?
Between the curb on the front to the sidewalk.
To the
or
beginning
sidewalk,
of the
10
sidewalk.
feet.
To be honest, I never really heard that number, so I don't know. I'll have to start. Oh, this is the old sidewalk. Wow.
Now, what happened, I think, is that the city looked at the plat map, the most recent plat map that they could get. And according to that, in the 100-foot section where they put the sidewalk in the park was where it was before.
Yeah.
And to match up with the 300 block and on into downtown, it would have gone straight on down. And the older maps show that that's where a sidewalk was, and that's where they were going to put it. So that's how it ended up at that spot.
Well, I was just wondering if you moved it and made that same amount of space, how much yard would it be for the other people?
If we made it parallel with the park,
No, the spacing, like here's the road and here's the sidewalk. If that space was the same amount of space on that 300 block.
That's the problem that we're dealing with.
That's
If we
the
did that,
problem, there's
yes,
just way
yeah.
too much.
if we followed that same line, then
Yeah.
it would be, then
Right.
that's why we're here tonight.
Yeah. If we followed the same line, it'd go right where.
Well, I'm not meaning, can you move it out, because it didn't look like it, because looks like there's a parking spot in that, there's a lot more yard space on 300 block. I don't know. I haven't measured it, but you're right. If that's the problem, then yeah,
Yeah.
we need to move it.
I don't think there's any more extra space in the 300 block than there is in the 400 block. I mean, I sat in the park waiting for people to show up this morning, not knowing they weren't going to be here. And
That's
I
my
thought they-
fault. I had talked
But
to
then
them at
that-
8 o'clock and knew they weren't
And
gonna be
that's
there.
okay. That's okay. At least I got to see what the city employees were doing and whether they came to work on time or not. But my
And
point
they did.
is, sitting where I was down there at Fifth Street, Fifth Street, sitting on that corner at Fifth Street, looking north, everything's lined up. The curb all the way up is lined up. So you can't put the sidewalk in the same space in the 300 block that it is in the 400 block without being on her kitchen table.
It's not necessary.
And there's
It
no
just
ramp,
isn't
so.
You know, I mean, it doesn't, it just because it's gonna jog a little bit, it's not necessary to have it in
It doesn't
line.
even have to jog.
Yeah.
It can just be
it's right up
straight.
It can be straight. I don't know why you
I-
jog back because there's no ramp. So
If there's no
Like you,
ramp
I
there,
went
then
looking
I-
at it last
There's
night
no
at
ramp.
11
There's gonna be
o'clock.
a brand new ramp put in there.
We have to have a
So
ramp
just-
put in.
Like that, and then just kind of go.
but we don't need to jog back to where
diagonal a
the,
little bit, is that what you're
where
saying?
the park
So,
sidewalk
like
is.
through
Just
here,
move
and then-
8
Just
feet
make it
over,
straight.
then when you get off the ramp, you're just gonna have to curve a couple feet back for you to park.
Yeah.
In the
Just
street.
not that big of a
Yeah.
deal.
Not, it doesn't, I mean, the sidewalk won't have to be curved at all.
Okay, well, if you run it straight, I don't have a problem with that. And then we as a city can go in there and stripe that spot from that angle back to the other one.
Just kind of hurt my cattle around.
Well, you know, that's really,
I mean,
that's
I
really
think
a
people
true
can figure out how to
statement.
walk on a sidewalk.
You
that's
put a
not straight.
crosswalk out there and people are gonna follow it. They're not gonna go
It's interesting.
half a
Same
block down the
idea
street.
About
Yeah.
blocking off in front of the handicap ramp.
well, and even instead of having an angled crosswalk, so to speak, you could just do a 10-foot strip, and then it would capture
Oh, yeah.
that part of it and that part of it, the offset.
Yeah.
Yep.
That'd be
The entire
more
thing.
attractive than a.
If we can get
Yeah,
Andy to
I
spray
think
paint
so,
that,
too.
all that'd be great.
In
Good call.
Topeka, they have angled.
See my handicap
Well,
spot.
I did, that's what
Okay, I think you got the backing of the city. So comments. You have anything further you want to add to your
No,
comments
I just
and
wanted,
that question?
I was
Okay,
just wondering if that was what we were discussing.
yes, yeah,
Mhm.
okay. Appreciate the question. It was a good one. Paula, comments?
I'd just like to thank everyone who took the time to talk with me, return calls and things like that. And I was notified Wednesday afternoon that this was gonna start on Monday, and I immediately started making phone calls. And everyone was wonderful talking and returning calls, and I just really appreciate that. I have never tried to stop the sidewalk or anything like that. My whole issue was the safety, with it being right in my windows.
Sure.
So just simply going on the other side of the tree is all I'd ever asked for. And I appreciate you guys discussing it.
And I personally have talked to you several times since Thursday and appreciate your being forthcoming with me and telling me everything that you could, because your input helped me get some answers right quick from the state. I still have an issue with the state, but it's not going to affect what we're going to do at the sidewalk state in that regard, without telling everybody in the world what I plan on doing. Anybody else that's here tonight have a comment?
Oh, no, that's all I have.
Now, is this your sister sitting beside you?
Thank you. Yeah, right.
She brought her son with her. I mentioned that earlier.
Well, maybe.
Just here for moral support. I appreciate it.
That's
They
good.
were gone the whole weekend, so
I did call the Meeks and asked them to be here and told them that this meeting tonight, and the Meeks respectfully declined because they had another commitment. I called Payday and I asked him a question, and he thought that Quayla was going to be here, but Payday himself says whatever you guys decide, that's what he'll go with. It doesn't matter to him one way or another. So I expected Quayla to be here, and I don't think she's here. Is she? She behind a door there. Okay. But anyway, if nobody has any comments or
I have a
questions,
comment.
okay, go ahead.
There was a lot of emotion and upset all weekend long and all week, because they felt that nobody was listening. And we really need to make an effort as a council and as people that are leaders of our community to make sure that our people know that we care and that we're listening. And I think that you responded in an appropriate way, doing as much investigation as you did. And I agree with you, the state should have said something. That property was probably abandoned when they put in 99 and 4. And they probably have these little pieces of highway all over Kansas, maybe the United States. And they said, oh, that's too much paperwork. Same thing I had with Prairie Wind. A lot of government stuff gets lost. So I appreciate but it was very emotional. And so I just appreciate the fact that you got it taken care of. I slept well. I came down last night in my nightgown because I wanted to look and see where it was going to be put. I was in the car and I still got caught. you know, you just can't get around this town without going.
Tornado siren didn't go off, so I knew everything was okay last
Yeah.
night. I will say that there is somewhere in this material that I was emailed today, Matt did talk about the state doing various things and making contracts with the city about what they were going to be responsible for, because this isn't the only highway, like you said, in the state of Kansas that they changed plans midstream and decided not to make a highway and do something else. So they had to confront this problem with all the cities. My gut feeling is just what you said. Too much paperwork for them to spend the time to go to the courthouse and make whatever paperwork trails they needed to make sure everything was okay. So,
Can I ask a couple questions?
sure.
Are we set on his price now for the sidewalks? I mean, I thought that's what the last bid. So we're going forward with something we don't have the cost on, because that's not normally how we operate, right?
That is not normally how we operate, but
I thought that last bid was the correct one and we were done.
we approved a bid, and then he didn't get to it in June, and I came back and told you guys that there was gonna be a price increase.
So where's the information?
We've already looked at that price increase and approved it.
That's what I'm
Did we?
asking. That's what I
Well,
thought we did
yeah,
go
we
back
would.
and.
What
approve.
meeting was that?
Well, we wouldn't proceed without knowing what the cost was going to be.
That's what I
Oh,
thought.
we wouldn't, would we?
I think you forgot a meeting.
I think he's being
Because I was like,
That's sarcasm.
I'm sorry. Just
Move right by.
apparently,
Well,
you know, it's my normal topic, so I didn't catch it.
Our city clerk couldn't be here tonight, or we could ask her to look it up.
I
But
mean, I just wanted to verify that he's not changing the rate as reported.
He's supposed to be working within the bid, the original 31,000,
Okay,
but there could be something that has to be cut, which could be that piece to the kiosk or something
okay.
to absorb the price increases, which is what I
And then-
said.
Second, if we can figure out where to put the sidewalk and it's just still gonna be a straight sidewalk, can he proceed?
as far as I'm concerned, there won't be an issue with cost either, because it's a straight line regardless of where
Same
you
thing.
start it.
Right.
That's the way I'm looking at it. I can't
So-
imagine just because they're moving that straight line from here to there, that it's going to cost more money.
So we just need to have a conversation, and if it's in the same rate, we can proceed, because that's what I'm
I'm
asking.
gonna meet with him tomorrow morning when he gets here, and I told him to stay within the 31,000 if there's any with the price increase, so that it
I'm
wouldn't
just talking
be
about-
any more.
Are we delaying this sidewalk for a bid, or are we proceeding if it's within that bid scope?
I think we proceed. I
That's
don't
why
think
I'm
we delay it. I
verifying.
think we get it in there. So next year we can start our next project.
Okay.
All right. Anybody else want to say anything?
I have one question.
Okay.
Are additional sidewalks around the city going to be improved?
Eventually they will. Our sales taxes bring us basically enough money to do, say, 2 blocks at a time right now. Without
And
raising.
that's solely because we've been doing 6-foot wide sidewalks at the park, and once we get stopped
It's
doing
not
that,
just like,
Wait a
it's
minute.
not just the park project, that's the cost,
But that's-
but we're only doing one of those at a time.
Wasn't that state sales tax developed, and the reason that people voted for it was because it was supposed to go to the park first, not just sidewalks?
I don't know that it was
It-
designated like that, but it's
No.
parks and
Streets and
sidewalks.
There's a
Well,
list
and
of
then
things.
No,
gonna
it's,
go to
it's not
sidewalks.
streets and alleys, it's park and sidewalks
And
Yeah,
and curb, I mean, which
Curbs,
includes
gutters.
curbs,
yeah.
curbs and guttering.
Mm.
So there are some concerns on Main Street because we do have a lot of broken curbing that we are focusing on first. Obviously, in front of the senior center is a big deal because we don't want anybody getting hurt, and it has been an issue for a couple of years. So we're trying to hit the most needed things, as well as trying to like piece together the park as we work on the other pieces of the park at the same time. So that it actually finishes together, not 10 years later we put in sidewalks after we finish everything else.
Streets.
So it's both. I mean, we're trying to. Brett really does a decent job of a good job of balancing out where it's all going each year, and we only get about 30 to 38,000 for the 1% sales tax each year. So we're working with it as we go, basically. But yeah, we do plan. I mean, I hope that we continue to. I don't know how many times we can vote that 1% sales tax in, but I hope that we continue to improve the town.
Is it sunset after 10 years or? Yep,
Is it 10?
is, yep.
Okay, I thought it was a 4-year thing, so.
So you have the proposal that night that they voted on the 1% increase in
Yeah, I
there.
do.
And what does it say?
From the first day of April 2020 and in effect for 10 years.
And
It's for curbs, sidewalks, streetscapes, and city park property needs within the city.
Thanks, Joseph.
yeah, so I appreciate that because I always thought it was just the tax money was due on streets and alleys, which would include parks,
Wow.
curbing.
Not the sales tax. There's
Pardon me?
another, there's a special highway, that we
Streets
get
guys.
12, wasn't it 12,500?
I thought it was more than that, but I'm not.
Yeah,
I
there was
don't know.
something that the state gave us,
Yeah, it was gas
and
money.
it adds up.
Or, yeah.
And then the sales tax is on the side, which by the way is not real popular anymore. Sales tax, you say sales tax and people are.
So the sales tax is what I'm referring to. Is that not what you talked about? Sales tax isn't that for curbs?
That's what Justin just read off. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Curbs,
curbs is-
Okay,
sidewalks.
but she jumped in on state tax of some sort, and I didn't know what that was referring to.
There is a streets and alleys fund, isn't there? Or like the way it's designated.
Yeah.
More money.
And other thing that they told me in the state was that every year they pay all these different cities around the county X number of dollars for
General fund, but it's
highway
designated.
maintenance of some sort. So I gotta find out how much we're getting from that. Does anybody have any
What do you
idea?
need?
How much money is the county paying us every year? According to Matt, the county pays all these cities in the county of Wabunsee a dollar figure based on our responsibility to the state highway.
Oh, okay.
So I want to know, I want to know how much money that is we're
We got
talking about.
2 highways running through our town.
Yes, we do. Okay, so I'm at a point of making any proposals. You guys are through discussing with this, then
Well, we need to discuss this gap right here. Just to get the conversation started, I'd say 4 feet wide is the sidewalk, so 4 feet wide would be the grass area. I think it would look symmetrical.
if it'll fit, right?
I mean, I know there's that tree right there, so I guess.
I thought you,
does
if you
that
just
fit?
parked on the street next to the curb, opened your door and made it to where that empty space, the door wouldn't be opening onto the sidewalk to somebody, that would be an appropriate.
That's what they have down the highway.
That's
By
I don't
Connie
understand
Evans's
what
place,
you
it's
just
just
said.
about that much.
So you're parked and
So about 2 feet.
you fling
2
your
feet
door
minimum.
open, some kid's riding a bike down the
Sidewalk.
sidewalk.
Oh.
You don't want the door to interfere with that kid.
So you think 2 feet? Well, I mean, is that what you're saying?
I don't know, depending, it would just have to be park a vehicle there, like a truck there, and open the door and measure how much that is. I'm thinking 2 to 3 feet.
I hate to say this without
On your-
measuring it, I
Yeah.
guess. I don't
Yeah, we
like
need to
the
measure
idea.
it.
It was about
We're trying to
2.5
make a
feet.
decision.
I'd like to
2.5
make a
to
decision, I just
2
don't know how
foot
to make
eight,
it
It kind of varies.
without actual measuring tape.
Well, I'm not stuck
We
on
could.
this. I'm just trying to get the conversation started.
Yeah, no,
I
I
don't
agree.
care what it
That
is.
sounds like a
I
pretty
just don't
standard
want it
measurement.
on the
Yeah.
curb, but
No,
I
I'd
agree
say
with
2 feet back,
Yeah.
if feet.
Paulo, you live down there. What do you think? You don't park in the street anyway,
I do
right?
not know what the measurement is between the tree and curb, so I don't know what kind of leeway there is. I mean, 2 foot to me seems.
And I think Mr. Bill back there would have knowledge on this. If we put a sidewalk too close to that tree, what's gonna happen 10 years from now?
The sidewalk's gonna buckle.
Thank you. That's the other concern I would have with putting it too close to the tree.
No. Trees
Thank you, Mr. Bill, for that answer.
pretty far away.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, I'm teasing you. That's okay.
I thought you
We're,
were pointing at her.
we're fine.
No,
That's fine.
I just heard a question and I knew the answer, so I.
Well, I'm glad you did, because the way he was
Yeah.
looking at me was like, what are you saying to me? What's happening back here?
You might hear
Yeah,
her
close
too,
enough.
but you're
Yeah,
not
we'll have to
crazy.
move it.
This has to be.
is 2 feet gonna be wide enough that it doesn't just turn into a mud strip?
I would think so.
Grass is pretty hardy, don't you think?
Yeah.
Well, the vine weed that's in the 2 foot strip going up
The people do.
Lake Hill seems to stay green and flush all year.
Some people, that's like.
You can't kill that stuff. I know. We sprayed it and we've done other things and it just keeps coming back twice as strong, I think, sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I'd say 2 to 3 feet and measure it. I don't know how exact we have to be.
I'm okay with 2 feet if it's not gonna be, I just don't wanna create a problem that we didn't expect
Right.
to see.
I think that's a
And if it's not gonna be a problem, I'm fine with 2 feet.
Okay.
Justin, you said yours is about 32 inches,
Yeah, 30, 32 is.
and
it's
you got
varies
a
in
slight
places.
slope there too, from
There
up
is.
there to your sidewalk, right?
Yep.
I would think.
Pretty good slope.
I would
really,
say
but
between 30 and 36 inches would be an appropriate space.
Yeah.
That means that somebody's gonna have to make 2 passes with a lawnmower to get it cut that way instead of 1.
I was thinking about that too.
Okay.
But yeah, with the slope not as aggressive, I almost think you could go narrower if you wanted to, but mine is just kind of a pain to get on there because you're kind of
That looks like 2 feet
tilted like that. But
behind that pole, so I still removed it. I mean, to
Yeah.
get where that line is even.
yeah,
So Paula, again, I'm gonna put you on the spot. I know you don't park in the street. Your guests probably park in your driveway as much as possible. And if you really have a really huge party, then they can park in the street. But can you see any problems with the sidewalk starting roughly 30 inches from the curb?
No, that's.
Then
sounds
that's
fine
gonna
to
be
me.
4 foot wide because it has to be handicap accessible. It won't be any wider than that. Okay.
I mean, as long as it doesn't get too close to the tree, like you
Okay.
said,
All right.
I'm absolutely flexible on that, thank you.
Okay, so you're gonna leave it up to us to go out there and measure it and look at it and see where the best place is gonna be, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can ask Josh what his opinion is tomorrow on it when I talk to him at the park.
Sure. And get with us to let us know where it's gonna go. I don't think that we even need to vote on where it's gonna go. We just need to vote to replace replace what was previously agreed upon with what we're talking about tonight, putting it in a location.
Then I move that we move the sidewalk from the original place that it was designed to be, much closer to the curb. I guess we should have some, I guess we have the recorder.
I'll second.
Can we have a motion? I guess I'm the secretary at the moment.
It sure is weak since it doesn't hammer anything out.
Yeah, I know it. We'll go a little
And
further.
proceed if
We're
it's
gonna-
in budget
This is
still. I mean, are we saying that? Yeah, it's, I'm recording.
Yeah, not to exceed the current allotted funds for the sidewalk, right?
The bid,
Yeah.
we have more funds than the bid.
I mean, we could
That's
probably
what-
look at
that's
it
what I was gonna
because
ask.
with the delay,
We
more
have more
sales tax
funds.
money has come in
Yeah.
since then. But
We had
I'm
more. I
not
think
saying
it's
it's
about
here, take my money. but-
$3,300 a month is what we've been
It's
generating.
at 38 right now, I'm pretty sure.
But the last bid didn't drain the account.
It was at 31.
No, it left a few $1,000s in
Good,
the
so then
account.
we can afford the change.
Yeah. Then maybe do the whole.
Yes,
scope
and
of
this
what
bid
we
that
were
he
gonna do
got
anyway.
was like 9,000 less than last year's bid, which was good because next year's north side of the park is gonna take a lot more than
You
any
might
of
be
the
getting
others
more
have.
sales. I pay $2,000 a month
Instead of
for
making
sales
it
tax
expensive.
on my store.
Okay,
And so
so
then
Yeah,
that
but
would,
that's not all city tax.
It's somebody second.
but
Yeah.
yeah, 1% is.
Brett did, but I'm
Are we-
gonna reread
Yeah,
it.
he's
Okay.
right, he's right.
Here, I'm gonna
Let's
re-
say-
I'm gonna
The rest of it
reword it.
goes to county.
Yeah, 1% of your revenue for the year ought to be close. I mean, I realize some people are tax exempt, but I mean,
Pretty darn close.
it'd be a pretty good swag number. But
Swag.
Okay, here's what the motion I think should say, and then somebody repeat it if they like it. Motion made to move the sidewalk on the 300 block of South Main Street closer to Main Street, at least 30 inches to 36 inches from the curb.
Okay, I will move for that.
And I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion? Those in favor? It's approved 5-0. Your sidewalk is out of your headache now, okay? And anybody else that has concern over that area. So thank you very much, everybody, for coming tonight.
Move to adjourn.
Paula, thank you for your input, and everybody else that had a voice tonight. Appreciate that. Okay, this meeting's adjourned, 7:54.
turn that off.
We don't even have to
Now,
vote now.
next Monday is our next council meeting. I want it to be an hour long too, okay?
Here, let's-
Make sure you get
Well,
everything on the
we don't
agenda.
have the city officer yet.
Yeah, we quit adding things to it, right?
Yeah.
We are wanting to pay her $5 less.